Hello, welcome back, everybody. We're doing a continuation of our series tonight. 1987 top 10 movies. I'm here with Brian, Massey's Maine Entertainment, Doc. We've been doing this since the movie since 1980, doing a top 10 list and one worst film of the year. Hope you're enjoying the series. Love to hear some comments and give the thing a like if you really like this content, so we know to keep doing it. 80 for the movies, all the way through to 99. On Brian's channel, Massey's Maine Entertainment, you'll see the link below. Go over to his channel. We're doing music each year. 87, of course, will be released in the same day, but we've been doing this since 1965, going all the way up to 1999, trying to release one tandem video each week. We're recording on Wednesday. If we stay on course, our release date will be on Monday. So we're going to try and stick to that schedule so everybody kind of gets used to it and knows what's coming. Our regulars anyway, which we appreciate their patronage. So, guys, 1987, whereas we're getting towards the end of the decade here and work our way towards the 90s. What do you think of the movies in general as a whole? And was this a tough list for you?
I would say a lot of good movies, man. A lot of good movies in my eyes. Some will make an appearance on the Academy's list. Some won't. A lot of good guy flicks in a lot of senses, if you want the truth.
Yep.
It's really tough to get it down to 10, man. You know,
It is.
I got some honorable mentions that I could watch maybe more than my first a lot. So it would be along those lines if you get the idea. It's really, I thought a pretty good year, man. Had a pretty good year overall.
Yeah. You too,
I think
Brian?
so many of the movies end up becoming like iconoclastic, like Americana movies that we quote from still today.
Totally.
True.
And they still have some relevance today. They're being made into multiple sequels and things like that. It's just, it's funny when I looked at the list, I'm going, wow. I go, so many people still reference these movies when they talk about the greatest of this type of genre, that type of genre. And it seems like the prevalence of blockbusters is starting to increase. You can start to see it. Those summer blockbusters are a big deal now.
Yeah, they're dominating the box office for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so tonight's order is Doc, Brian, and myself. And let's get into it, guys, and see what's on these lists here. Doc, start us off.
Man, I feel bad about my honorable mentions. Not going to get a shout out right now until the end or whatever.
We'll shout them out at the end. We'll shout them out to cover them. Yeah.
Because I got some really good movies that aren't going to make it. But I'll start off. Number 10 is going to come in with Lost Boys for me. Number 10. The two Coreys, Jason Patrick, I think, is in this, and Kiefer Sutherland, great lead vampire. It's a vampire story, The Lost Boys. So don't want to give it away too much if you haven't seen it, but that's what it's about. Santa Clara, I think, California, and just a really good vamp story. If you want the truth, it's catchy. It's sarcastic. It's got some funny scenes in it. It's really well made, man. If you want the truth, and some oh my god moments are in that, man. More than a couple of times. So it's Lost Boys, man. A couple of vamp flicks came out this and Near Dark. So which one do you go with? I have a little bit more love for the Lost Boys. So makes my list at number 10.
Cool.
But I do like Bill Paxton and Near Dark. Don't get me wrong.
That's a good film.
Number 9. I'm coming in with No Way Out for number 9, man. I know, Rich, you like this one as well, and we got this one under Brian not too long ago, in the last year or so. But it's a great political thriller kind of flick. It's one of Costner's better, I would say, in the scheme of things. He's hitting pretty good, man. 87, Costner's doing pretty solid here, I think. He's on a pretty good roll.
He is.
And it's got a lot of twists and turns, man. It's a keep it guessing kind of flick. And my top 10, 87, if Gene Hackman's in the movie, there's a good chance he's going to make my top 10, man. So
True.
And Gene's on this movie. So No Way Out. If you haven't seen it, it's a really good political spy thriller kind of flick, man. It's really well done. Going to the buddy cop movie, Lethal Weapon, man, coming in at number 8. What can you say, man? This is a Donner, right? Richard Donner did this. What a great buddy cop flick, man. There's no other way to say it, man. I think we talked about it a long time ago where we talked about Butch and Sundance, where it kind of led to like this kind of stuff in Hollywood where you start seeing the buddy cop flicks and stuff like that, or what it can mean for two guys collaborating on screen and stuff like this. And it's exactly what you get with Lethal Weapon. Great little story. Cops and robbers, cops and bad guys, man. And Lethal Weapon is really well told. Yeah, I like Mel and the Danny Glover in it, man. Like they're fantastic together, and they work off each other really good in this flick, man. Really good cop buddy story, man. Yeah, it sticks with it. If it's on now, I'd watch it, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Number 7. I'm gonna go with the heartfelt comedy, man. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. That number 7 for me, man. Lots of sides to this movie, you know. It's a John Hughes movie. It's got a little bit more. It's got a lot of heart, obviously, at the end. You can find that out. But as the story goes along, and those flashback scenes really put things in perspective of what John Candy's character is going through, and how Steve Martin was, and really funny scenes in that movie, man. You know, from never seen a guy get picked up by his testicles before to freaking, you know, cars on fire and devils, and you know. And the return to the empty the parking spot there where there's no car, and him going back to get his car back is just one of the classic scenes, I think, in that movie, man. Just hilarious. Gonna follow that up with another Costner, man. I really like this one, so it's Untouchables coming in at number 6 for me. Yeah, De Niro's fantastic, man, and as Al Capone.
Enthusiasms.
Yeah. What a
Favorite
cast,
type club, hit the date all a long day. Teamwork. So yeah, here you go, Brian, going back to those, you know, quote movies out of the 80s here, man. I'm sure we could go through a lot of lists here, and as we go along. Yeah, Untouchables. And you know, let's face it, Sean Connery won the Oscar for this role as well.
Right.
I think 1634 Racine. I once had a friend there, man. So it's a great movie. I love everything about it. I've loved it ever since it came out. It's my family members will tell you this is one of my favorites, you know. And I'm married to an Italian, so I guess it's not that bad if I say it's not just like a wop to bring a knife to a gun. But Untouchables number 6 for me, man.
Yep.
Number 5 is going to come in with Wall Street for me.
Yep.
Gordon Gekko is one of the greatest characters, man, that I've ever seen, like a scumbag like this. You know, and Michael Douglas pulls it off. Michael Douglas had a good year this year too. So
excellent. Yeah.
Excellent year. Wall Street's fantastic. You know, Charlie Sheen's awesome in this movie, man. And so is you know, Martin Sheen playing his dad in real life, playing his dad on screen. There's no getting around who the star of this is, man. This is Michael Douglas's role. And Gordon Gekko is a cutthroat stockbroker, just killer. And he's been making his millions ever since he was, you know, young at this, 18, 19, can't remember how old. He was very young when he got into it. But Wall Street's a great story. It's told by Oliver Stone. And it's another one I could probably quote a ton out of that one too, man. But get the steak tartare. Wall Street, man, number 5. There are a couple more quotables, I think, coming in now, Brian. So here we go. So flip the coin, man. You know, the next 2 I could probably watch at any time in my life. It doesn't matter what it is, but I'm going to go with RoboCop coming in here, man. So at number 4, the ultimate tongue-in-cheek guy flick, sarcastic Paul Verhoeven movie. Really well done. You know, Clarence Boddicker, can't remember the fellow who plays him. The guy from The Father on that 70s show is the guy who plays the bad guy.
Right.
And it's got everything in it. Like this is a guy flick to me, man, if you want the truth. And the next one is as well. But RoboCop's a classic satire, and he makes a lot of these kind of movies. Total Recall, this is right up his alley. To be honest with you, there's some, like I mentioned before, that are tongue in cheek that miss my list, and I really love them. But RoboCop's a classic movie, and I wish they never would have made a remake of that one. I'll tell you that. So I got Predator coming in at number 3, right behind it, man. I don't know which one's the ultimate guy flick between those two, to be honest with you, man. It all depends on my mood, I guess. If I want the war zone action, or if I want the city street action in Detroit where the cops are doing it. So Predator's classic, man. Great soundtrack. I love the score in that movie. I think they're all great in their roles. It's a limited role here for these guys. These guys are on screen to die in a lot of senses. So Swartz gets out of it. Great monster movie, man, if you want the truth, and aliens and guns, explosions. And that's for a lot of stuff, man. Predator's a classic in my eyes. And John McTier's on a roll, man. So the guy who made this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, man, I had tough getting this one down. So number 2 is The Empire of the Sun for me, man.
Yeah.
It's got to be Spielberg's most underrated flick, man. It really must.
I think so.
You just don't hear it mentioned with him. I think the way it should be. It is. I think it's emotional. I think Christian Bale is fantastic as the lead actor, as a 13-year-old boy in this thing. It's the story of Shanghai and segregation and getting pulled away from his parents. It just follows him through the whole thing, his struggle that he goes through as a kid, going through war that's going on in World War II, with Japan attacking, and there's not many guys on the planet that could direct something like this, man. And Spielberg really pulls it off. And I it's awful, and there's a lot of really bad scenes in it, but it's so beautiful to look at. I just think it's kind of a masterpiece. And I think Empire of the Sun is, like, man, I was torn between that and my number 1. You want to flip the coin at one sense. But before I get to number 1, I got to tell you what the worst one of that year was.
Yeah.
I went back to the well. I hope you guys don't mind, because I did the 3D version at one time. So, but Jaws: The Revenge, man, is I don't know if when I'm going through the list, and there's some good candidates, man. I'm just thinking, I watched this freaking movie, man, and that was a long time ago, and obviously I'll never watch it again, and I don't want to. Yes, the shark comes up again, and this time Michael Caine. They must have thrown a crap load of cash at Michael Caine for this. Holy crud!
They had to.
Yeah.
And the widow of Schneider in the first one and stuff. Come on, man. How many sharks is this woman going to go through in her life, for crying out loud? That's your tagline to keep the story going, is the widow? Come on, man. I can't say how bad it is, man, because it's freaking awful. Talk about ruining Jaws in a lot of senses, man. I'm kind of crappy I had to say that movie, man. But Jaws: The Revenge is just crap. But worst movie that year for me, man. And I had some pretty good candidates. So.
Oh yeah, there were some good ones.
There is some good ones.
But we'll try to end it on a high note. So, in one sense, I guess, but maybe not another. So, Full Metal Jacket's number 1, man.
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick. There's a lot of things that go on in this movie. The story, it's so well shot. Again, I talked about Spielberg and Empire of the Sun. Kubrick's no slouch, man. Obviously, this guy's a master too, and he shows it. And this is something kind of different in one sense. The aerial shots and different things that he's showing, and very moving, grounded, like as the scenes go through. I love that in like these type of movies. It's a war setting. Maybe not right away, but the first 45 minutes of that movie is, heartbreaking to watch in some senses too. So, Full Metal Jacket's a classic, man. It's the movie of the year of '87 for me.
I like your list. I mean, it's a doc list. You got your guy adventure movies in there. You got your buddy flick and Lethal Weapon. You got your vampire flick. And you got all the rest of probably on my list. So
Oh, okay,
good stuff.
cool.
Yeah.
It's a great list.
Yeah,
And
it's a good list.
I can't
Thank you.
argue with your worst, although I will have a different one. There were so many contenders,
There was.
but I know you're such a big fan of Jaws that this one is such a letdown that you have to put it.
You know, Jaws 3D and Jaws: The Revenge. They both made my list of the
I
worst
know, that's
movies.
incredible,
Yeah.
but worthy.
Yes.
All right, Brian, what do you got for us?
All right. So before I get started, remember there were two movies that you guys told me that I had to see
Yes.
when we were doing our regular list, and I have seen both of them now. One of them will make my top 10. The other one didn't make my top 10.
Okay,
Just so we preface that a little bit.
that's good.
Number 10.
Good to know.
Number 10, I've got Predator. I think it is a sci-fi, action adventure classic. Arnold and his friends, like Duke Winston and Jesse Ventura, they
Right.
have those guys a lot in his movies and stuff. I've just recently watched the prequel Prey, which is on Hulu.
Oh,
And it's actually an exceptional story. That's what I like most about it. They kind of
cool.
they put the Predator in the background. They told a really good story, and then the Predator just kind of supported the story. And so I thought it was really cool. It was really good. I was very interested to see it, and it stood up. It stood up to the hype. So at number 9, I've got Clive Barker's Hellraiser.
Ah,
I knew I was going to have a horror movie, I think, and I just kept, wondering whether this was going to make it. I can remember this one being for the time, it was pretty scary. I mean, the introduction of the Cenobites, especially Pinhead, freaked a lot of people out. I mean, it was
Totally.
a very, very gory movie too. The scenes in the beginning, the torture scenes of the guy's brother at the beginning before they drug him off to hell was just, very, very intense, and it's bloody, and just kind of took horror movies all to that next level that you kind of figured that was going to be. It was going to be these types of horror films,
Yeah.
highly hinging on satanic type of hell type of stuff. So
time out, Brian. Time out
Yeah.
right there. I feel really crappy. I don't have it on my freaking list, man. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I love that movie, man.
Honorable mention for Doc.
I know.
Number 8 for me, this is one I went back and rewatched again to see whether it was going to make my top 10. It didn't crack the top 5. I didn't think it would. It's Wings of Desire by Wim Wenders, the original version of City of Angels. It's about an angel who basically wants to give up being his mantle of being an angel. He wants to experience all the things he would experience as a human, including falling in love with a trapeze artist. I think I remember, if I remember right, her name was Marion. Great. It's a great movie. The cinematography in it is fantastic. The direction in it is fantastic. I love his films. I hadn't seen it since the early 90s, and I wanted to give it a chance again. And it holds up. It cracked my top 10 pretty easily after I watched it again. I was very psyched to see it. Number 7, I've got Raising Arizona, a movie that I typically have to watch on my own because my wife can't stand the voice of Holly Hunter at all. Just drives her absolutely batty. But it's one of those movies where, Nicolas Cage always gets razzed. Either he's making really good movies or he's making really bad movies. This is one of his really good movies. I mean, his quirkiness in this film works because the film itself is kind of this quirky little comedy that I think is just tremendous. He does a great job in it. John Goodman's character in it is absolutely hilarious too.
Goodman's fantastic in that movie.
It is. It's absolutely fantastic. I love it. So number 6 for me, I've got the Lost Boys here, Doc. It was close. I did actually consider Near Dark as well. But the Lost Boys seemed a little bit more iconic. Kiefer Sutherland's performance was great. Jamie Gertz, I love her in this as well. Diane Wiest as the mother did a really good job. Get the Coreys. It's just an all-around great vampire film that's kind of it's fun enough not to be like a horror movie. It's not really a horror movie. It's about vampires, but I think they make it fun enough and lighthearted enough to where it really won't classify as a horror movie.
It's got a campiness to it.
It does. It does. I mean, the whole mullet that Kiefer Sutherland is sporting there, it's just incredible. I love it. Number 5 for me is the one you guys turned me on, and I couldn't believe I had never seen it before, considering I was such a big Malkovich fan. I've got Empire of the Sun here.
Oh yeah.
I went back and watched that for the first time, and Christian Bale blew me away how good he was in that.
Totally.
For a kid. He did a great job. Malkovich was great in it. The story was great in it. It is probably, I would think now, and 2 years ago, I wouldn't even had it on my list of favorite Spielberg movies. Now it's probably in my top 7 films.
Oh yeah.
From
For me,
Spielberg,
yeah.
pretty easily. So the story is just, it's so well done, and in every aspect, I had to put it in my top 5 for sure. Number 4, I've got, Greed is Good, Gecko, Wall Street's right here. The performances are way too strong in this between both the Sheens and Michael Douglas himself, that you just had to put it here. What a great story. It's one of those movies where it's just good storytelling is enough. You don't have to do anything super elaborate with any type of cinematography or anything like that. Just make it. Stone was really good about making things just as real to the subject matter as possible, and that's what makes this film work. And he gives you that sense, that hectic sense of what Wall Street is really like. So, number 3 for me is the quirky comedy broadcast news. William Hurt's obviously in this, but I love Albert Brooks in this. He's my favorite character. Just the whole scene where he has to actually anchor the evening news that time, and he's just profusely sweating and there was water coming out of that guy's, where they must have had like some type of tubes hooked up where they're just pouring water down his face. It was so hilarious and so funny, but this gives you kind of that inside look about where news was heading, where things were switching from real news to sensationalism type of stuff, but they do it in a fun way, and everybody does a really good job in the movie. Number 2 for me is The Last Emperor. I know a lot of people are like hit or miss on this. I like it. I like biopic type of movies like this, chronicling the life of Puyi, the last emperor of China, and his journey through multiple types of government that actually went through his homeland of China during the wars and stuff like that, and how like he even like would have changed. He always was changing sides and changing allegiances just to simply survive and keep his way of life, and never actually took any type of like ownership of for the things that he had done and stuff like that. So it's a really good, interesting story. Bernardo Bartolucci is the director in it. Great acting in it as well. So everybody should check that out. But number 1 for me as well is Full Metal Jacket. Oh yeah, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, my worst film. I always forget to do that.
That's all right.
I had two written down. I don't want to say the other one because I think Rich has got it. But I had to ultimately pick Masters of the Universe.
Oh wow.
The one where Dolph Lundgren's playing He-Man. I mean, it looks good, like it should be okay on paper, but the cast that they put together for that film was so bad. And you're trying to take a cartoon and make it into a live action film when you just did not have the CGI to back it up. I mean, there was just no special effects whatsoever. It was terrible. And you're relying on Dolph Lundgren to kind of carry the load for the acting, for lead actor. It's just not going to happen. So, but number 1, since I already spoiled it, I had Full Metal Jacket here. Overall, great performances by everybody. Vincent D'Onofrio is great in it. Joker. Who plays Joker again, guys?
Matthew Modine.
Matthew Modine.
Modine.
Yeah, he does a great job in it. And then, of course, the drill sergeant, Arlie Ermy. He got the job basically because he did it better than the guy he was trying to train for the job.
That's right.
He's just so believable that, I mean, as a guy who went through military boot camp, I'll tell you, that guy is 1000% believable about how they act and everything. So great, powerful movie though. It's basically 2 different stories. One is boot camp, one is actually when they were over there in the war and everything. And as Kubrick does a fantastic job. Probably one of his top 3 movies for sure. So
awesome.
You both guys did a great job on your list. I'm glad to see a lot of my favorites on there. And you guys matched up on two that I didn't have, The Lost Boys and Predator. So very, very interesting. I love it. Doc, comments?
Well, I think, so we have, I think 5 the same, I think, Brian. So,
Yes.
I think that was my guess, buddy, going in. I thought me and you would have 5. So I didn't know which 5 it would be. I had a pretty good idea, but obviously it's a solid list, buddy. And I think between your list and my list, not representing 87 too bad, I think, buddy. I think it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a couple that are trifectas here. I don't want to spoil which ones. I'll go through them here.
Okay.
As we go.
As we go. What was I going to say about? I forget, but anyway, I'll get to it. I was going to say I have a Jamie Gertz movie, but it's not The Lost Boys. I'm going with Less Than Zero. I love this movie. This
it's a good movie.
My number 10 because it's Robert Downey Jr. I don't know if he's acting or he's just showing up addicted, and he gives a great performance in the movie. I bought everything about him as this rich kid who is just completely wasted every minute of every frame of the film. Andrew McCarthy stars as a kid who's in his first year of college. He comes home for Christmas. He's got a girlfriend played by Jamie Gertz, and their other friend is Robert Downey Jr., and he's just down. He's looking for drugs constantly. He's stealing. He's been kicked out of his parents' house. He's living in a park. It's just a really hard-hitting movie, yet you have this affluent scene of these mansions in LA. It's beautifully shot. The nightclubs are really cool. It's got a great 80s soundtrack, if you like that kind of music.
It is good.
All the big hits at that time were showcased here. Great art direction. The lawns are perfect. The statues. I mean, there's people that live that kind of lifestyle in LA, and they have kids, and these are the kids that go to the schools in the Beverly Hills and that type of thing. And no matter what they have, no matter how spoiled they are, they can't find happiness. You can't buy happiness for your kids. And Robert Downey Jr. is a classic example of that. And he's lucky he made it through those years alive. Maybe the character doesn't really, but it's worth checking out if you haven't seen Less Than Zero. That made my number 10 slot. Number 9 is Raising Arizona. That was mentioned already by Brian. Comes in at number 9. Just wacky, ridiculous, oddball comedy. Coen Brothers, one of their early films. It's almost comic book like, with the prisoners escaping, Goodman and Forsythe coming out of the ground and the oil and all that stuff. And then you got the ex-con played by Nick Cage, and you got the prison cop or the whatever deputy sheriff played by Holly Hunter. And they want a child, so they end up stealing this local rich guy's children, Nathan Jr., and it's on from there. So just hijinks, lunacy, kind of a fun film. But I wanted to represent it, because I don't usually put a lot of comedies on my list, but this one was a special film, so it makes number 9 for me. Number 8, I don't think anybody had this, but I think it's an important film for that era. Fatal Attraction. Michael Douglas and Glenn Close. One night stand that blows up into this stalking nightmare. It's pretty intense. Glenn Close thinking there was more love involved. She can't accept that she was just like a hit and run kind of relationship. Obsession takes over. She mistaken the casual sex for something more. Both leads are excellent in here, Douglas and Glenn Close. So that's my number 8. My number 7 is one Doc had that we mutually have always liked. No Way Out, the political thriller, Cold War thriller, really. There's a spy film with the Russians, twists and turns and CIA, and they're trying to find out who the mole is. And in the meantime, you get this sexy Sean Young who's juggling 2 different guys, Gene Hackman, Kevin Costner. She's in a sexual relationship with both. Will Patton is this weasel of a squirrely dude who works here, and he's manipulating a lot of the stuff that goes on. And just a lot of action, suspense. I really enjoyed the movie. I know Brian's not the huge Costner fan in the world. In fact, I think he left both of his movies off the list. Awesome.
I boxed out Costner,
And
man.
that was no coincidence, ladies and gentlemen. Strictly Kevin Costner effect was in play here. So that was number 7. Number 6 is Wall Street. That's a trifecta. Oliver Stone's interesting take on capitalism and greed and insider trading and grabbing every dollar you can get, living that lifestyle. Gordon Gekko, he's the mentor of Charlie Sheen, and Charlie Sheen's got his father, Martin Sheen, playing his real father. There's all kinds of good dynamics in there. 80s excess. I think Daryl Hannah's the girlfriend as well. She's in this movie. So it's really solid, well written, excellent acting. Wall Street. So now I'm into the top 5. Number 5 for me is The Untouchables. Brian De Palma directed this. I like it. Kevin Costner, Sean Connery, Robert De Niro as Capone. Andy Garcia's in it as well as
That's
one of
right.
the guys, and Charlie Martin Smith from American Graffiti fame. He plays one of the Elliot Ness's kind of guys, the Untouchables.
That's right.
Are in Chicago. It's during the Prohibition era. They're trying to clean up Capone and his mob who are running the town. I think Costner's good in it. And of course, Sean Connery steals pretty much every scene he's in. That De Niro baseball bat scene in the meeting is iconic. You know, he's basically splits a guy's head open just to make a point. Very stylish, entertaining. I like the Sean Connery line. I believe it's if Capone puts one of yours in the hospital, put one of his in the morgue. So it's a good line. Look at all these actors that turned down the role that Costner eventually got. These guys were offered the role and turned it down. Mickey Rourke, Jeff Bridges, William Hurt, Harrison Ford, and Michael Douglas, all those leading men of that era. They all took a pass on it. They went to Costner. Rest is history. My number 4, broadcast news. Ryan had that one. James L. Brooks, writer, director. It's like a romantic comedy drama. It's got everything in it. The 3 leads are tremendous. Albert Brooks does steal the show, but Holly Hunter is magnificent in that role too, as the producer. And she's excellent. William Hurt, good-looking anchor man who really doesn't know really what he has to be fed lines on what to say and stuff like
He's
that.
a dunderhead.
Yeah, he's not real shrewd or adept at what's going on in current events, that type of thing. It's a great script. Got the romance and the rivalry there between for the big story. Albert Brooks takes his turn in the anchor seat and just melts, literally melts.
Oh man,
A great movie. So that's high on my list at number 4. Number 3 is Empire of the Sun. You guys have talked about it. Another trifecta.
Yeah.
Spielberg's, I think it's his most underrated film too, for sure. Of all his big ones, it doesn't get nearly the praise it deserves. A coming of age story at the same time, with young Christian Bale growing up in a war-torn Shanghai and prison camps, internment camps. Some of the things he has to be put through, and he survives it, and meets Malkovich along the way, who's a character all of his own. Beautifully shot, with all the horrible
Totally.
stuff going on around it. The sunrises and just the landscape, and it's an amazing film. And it comes in at number 3. Number 2, Brian had it at number 2 also. The Last Emperor, Bernardo Bertolucci's. This is a near masterpiece of a biopic, an epic historical story about the last emperor of China from age 3 or 4 up until it runs from 1908 to 1967. That's a long time, 60 years. Visually stunning again, huge production. It's 2 hours, 43 minutes long. And it shows you the history of China along the way. So you learn something, and even though you don't know a lot of the actors involved, it doesn't matter. Sometimes it adds to it because you're not staring at a famous person and wondering how, are they acting and this and that. You believe these people. It's like almost like a documentary. It's pretty good. It's excellent, really. It's number 2. Worst movie. I'm glad I have this because the movies that you guys both have, I haven't seen, so I can't comment on either one of them, whether it be Masters of the Universe or Jaws: The Revenge. glad you saved me the money of seeing them, but I'm not interested. But my worst movie is Three Men and a Baby. I hate this movie.
Oh,
Woo!
Absolutely despise this movie. Garbage. It made a ton of money at the box office. Totally inane comedy. I just cringe at movies like this where you got Selleck, Steve Guttenberg, and Ted Danson. They're running around with a little baby, and it's a ridiculous TV movie kind of plot that raked in so much money, and I consider it swill. So that's a horrible movie for me. All you fans out there that went and saw it and love it, apologies. My number one, what can I say? Full Metal Jacket. We all hit on the trifecta and made it our number one film. It's a masterpiece from Kubrick, I think. You guys touched on everything. R. Lee Ermey as the drill instructor. That's one of the best performances I've ever seen in a movie. For it's not even an actor. You know, I mean, he turned into an actor, but he lived the role, and he's so believable in this. The curse words and some of the exercises that he can string together curse words like nobody in the history of film. You know, you maggot.
just rings them off.
Yeah.
He just strings them off. This is what's that thing he sings? This is for fighting. This is for fun. You know,
This is my rifle. This is my
This is
gun.
my
That's
gun.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically, it's just preparing men to go over and kill, get him in the frame of mind. This is what we're doing. We're training you to go into this savage
Yep.
arena and kill the enemy. And the first half of the movie is one movie unto itself, the boot camp, Paris Island, South Carolina. And then they actually go to Nam. And that some of those scenes over there are just intense. But that's what war is. This guy shows you what it is. D'Onofrio, great performance as the overweight
Fantastic.
Kyle, just completely inept. He can't do anything right, and so much stress on his face. And of course, Matthew Modine is Joker, who eventually makes it over to Nam. But what a great movie that is. So I'm glad we all realize that's the number one film of the year.
Look at that, eh?
Not till you eat the peanuts out of my shit.
You are the lowest form of scum I have ever seen. How high do they stack shit? Oh, this is crazy.
That's the short dude.
Oh,
One
geez.
line after the other.
Yes,
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
Whether
just
to
rings
laugh
them,
or
man.
cringe.
Rings them.
And the absurdity of war is categorized right at the end when they're singing the fucking Mickey Mouse theme as
That's
they're
right.
as they're marching away. The absurdity
That's
of it
right.
all.
Yeah, that's
You know?
right.
Yeah.
But any honorable mentions? Because I know, Doc, you had several written down. What do you have?
Well, I did have a few. You know, obviously, Brian knows where I felt about Hellraiser. I mean, talk about a late cut
Yeah.
for me, and fantastic horror flick. Yeah, Clive Barker's Hellraiser is a classic, to be honest with you. So I'm probably going to hear it from some family members for not having it on my list, if you want the truth.
Yeah.
So, but, oh well. I had Fatal Attraction written down as well. Raising Arizona is the Kevin Costner for the Nicolas Cage Shaun disease, because he's not making my list. So
Wow.
it's The Running Man was really high on my list, man. A fantastic tongue-in-cheek flick as well. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Richard
the guy
Dawson was
flick, it's
actually
really-
pretty awesome in that.
Yeah, he did a good job.
I'm sure he was.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It's fitting that he goes flying through the, at the end where he gets sent down, he goes right off the thing, right through the poster of himself, with his hands up in the air. Killigan loves you, So, yeah, Running Man's a classic from that era too. So I had lots of others. By the way, Ernest Goes to Camp was one that I had written down for honorable worst as well.
I had
Wow.
Leonard Part 6 as an honorable worst.
Oh, that's a good one. Leonard Part 6 with Bill Cosby. Yeah. What did you think my worst one was? You didn't think it was going to be 3
I thought it was going to be Leonard Part 6. I honestly
okay.
did.
Okay,
That's why I didn't want to mention it.
that's all right. Do you have any honorables that you think?
I had Untouchables, Near Dark, and Lethal Weapon were my last 3 out.
I have 5 that came close. Near Dark, which I do like better than The Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon probably came the closest to making my list. Radio Days, a Woody Allen movie. I couldn't squeeze it in. Ironweed, I like a lot with Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep. And House of Games with a David Mamet kind of movie with.
We might get some flack for not having, the Princess Bride talked about or something like that.
I thought one of you guys would have it. I'm glad you didn't.
No, and
I couldn't put
one
it
of the
in-
underrated ones there for Brian. I know how much he likes them, but Stakeout is a pretty funny flick.
Oh, it is.
Emilio Estevez and Richard Dreyfuss, man. It's actually a pretty good flick.
I think it's very funny. I just couldn't.
Yeah, so do
put
I.
it in my top 10, but it is good.
Yeah,
flick.
not top 10 material, but it's
Yeah.
still not a bad little flick, man.
I agree. Very good. I think we nailed them again. Most of the good ones.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's good.
remember to go over and check out Brian's channel, Massey's Maine Entertainment. In the description below, hit the link. Go over and check out our perfect album for 1987. 12 songs. We'll have Spotify lists with them as well. So if you're not familiar with the tune, you can go over and just hit the
Comment down below.
comment. We need the comments. We need lists. We like to hear other people's
Top
favorite
5,
film.
top 2, top 1, whatever.
Yeah,
Drop
whatever.
them in there.
Something that you like. I mean, if it's the Princess Bride, it's got to be that way. But you saw what we thought of it. We put it to shame. Anyway, for Brian and Doc, this is Rich. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back with it 1988 as soon as we can. Thank you very much. Take care.